Vince McMahon due in court. So Vince McMahon is going to court next week, and no, it's not for booking Roman Reigns to win another championship. This time, it's because the man who built an empire on controlled chaos apparently forgot that real-life highways don't work like scripted storylines. Welcome back to the Wrestling Hidden Insight, where we bring you the stories that make you go, wait, what? And this one, folks, this one is a doozy. Before we dive into this absolute car crash of a situation, and yes, that pun is very much intended, let me paint you a picture. Vince McMahon, the guy who once staged his own death in a limousine explosion for a storyline, the man who's been accused of more workplace violations than a factory with no safety inspector, the creative genius who thought it was a good idea to have wrestlers compete in a match where you had to grab a briefcase hanging above the ring, this same man is now facing a misdemeanor reckless driving charge. Now, I know what you're thinking. Vince McMahon in legal troubles? That's like saying the sky is blue or that wrestling fans have opinions about everything. It's not exactly breaking news. The man has been in and out of courtrooms more times than Kane has been resurrected from the dead. But this particular case? This one's special. Because this time, Vince wasn't trying to script his way out of trouble. This time he was behind the wheel of a Bentley, driving like he was late for a WrestleMania main event, and he turned a normal Thursday morning into something straight out of an action movie. Except there was no director yelling cut, no stunt coordinators, and definitely no do-overs. Let me set the stage for you. July 24th, 2025. It's a beautiful summer morning in Connecticut. Birds are chirping, coffee is brewing, people are heading to work or maybe taking a nice drive up to Martha's Vineyard for a relaxing weekend. Everything is peaceful. Everything is calm. And then, like a heel turn nobody saw coming, Vince McMahon comes barreling down Route 15 in Westport, Connecticut in his Bentley, going somewhere between 80 and 90 miles per hour. On a highway that was built in the 1930s. A highway so narrow that it makes modern drivers nervous even at the speed limit. But Vince was treating it like his personal autobahn. Now, before we get into what happened next, let's talk about this highway for a second. The Merritt Parkway, also known as Route 15, is notorious. It's scenic, sure, with all those beautiful bridges and tree-lined roads. But it's also tight, winding, and absolutely unforgiving if you're not paying attention. The speed limit is 55 in most places. 55. Vince was doing nearly double that. That's like showing up to an Iron Man match and deciding you're going to wrestle for 2 hours instead of 1. It's excessive, it's dangerous, and it's definitely going to get you in trouble. So there's Vince, flying down this historic highway in his luxury car, weaving in and out of traffic like he's playing a real-life version of Grand Theft Auto. And here's where it gets interesting. An unmarked state trooper had been following him. This wasn't a case of bad luck or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Law enforcement was literally on his tail because his driving was so reckless that they couldn't ignore it. The trooper had just turned on his lights to pull Vince over when, boom, disaster strikes. So what happens next? Well, Vince was issued a misdemeanor summons for reckless driving. Now, a misdemeanor might not sound like a big deal compared to some of the other legal issues he's facing, but it's still a criminal charge. It's still something that goes on your record. And it's still something that could result in fines, points on your license, or even jail time depending on how the court handles it. According to TMZ Sports, Vince's lawyer has been trying to get the charges dismissed, which, let's be honest, is exactly what you'd expect. When you have money and power, you lawyer up and you fight. That's how the game works. But here's the thing. This isn't just about a misdemeanor charge. This is about accountability. This is about the fact that Vince McMahon, a man who's been accused of dodging consequences for decades, now has to stand in front of a judge and answer for his actions. And not in a storyline where he can just walk out and cut a promo about how he's the boss and he does what he wants. This is real. This is a real courtroom with real consequences, and he can't just book himself to win this one. The disposition hearing is scheduled for October 16, 2025, in Stamford, Connecticut. For those who don't know, a disposition hearing is basically where the court reviews the case and decides what's going to happen next. It could be a plea deal, it could be a trial date, it could be a dismissal if Vince's lawyers work their magic. But whatever happens, Vince is going to have to show up and face the music. And honestly, that's something we don't see very often when it comes to powerful people like him. Let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture here. Vince McMahon is not having a great year. Scratch that. Vince McMahon is having one of the worst years of his life. The Janelle Grant lawsuit has been a nightmare for him, with allegations that are serious, disturbing, and damaging to his reputation. He's been forced to step away from WWE, the company he built from the ground up, the company that's been his entire identity for decades. And now, on top of all that, he's got this reckless driving charge hanging over his head. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash, which, given the circumstances, feels like a weirdly appropriate metaphor. But here's what makes this story so fascinating. It's not just about Vince McMahon the billionaire or Vince McMahon the wrestling mogul. It's about Vince McMahon the human being. And as much as we like to think of him as this larger-than-life character, this unstoppable force who always gets what he wants, this incident reminds us that he's just a person. A person who makes mistakes. A person who can be reckless. A person who, despite all his money and power, is still subject to the same laws and consequences as the rest of us. Now, some people might argue that this is a relatively minor incident in the grand scheme of things. Nobody was seriously hurt, the cars can be replaced, and it's just a misdemeanor charge. And sure, compared to some of the other allegations Vince is facing, this might seem small. So next week when Vince, if you made it this far, thank you for sticking with me through this absolute roller coaster of a story. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because here at the Wrestling Hidden Insight, we're posting multiple videos every single day, bringing you all the latest wrestling news, updates, and stories that everyone's talking about. Drop a comment down below and let me know what you think about this whole situation. Do you think Vince is going to face real consequences, or is he going to lawyer his way out of this like he's done so many times before? I want to hear your thoughts. And if you know anyone who needs to hear this story, share this video with them because trust me, they're going to want to know about this. Thanks for watching and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay tuned, stay informed, and keep it locked to the Wrestling Hidden Insight for everything you need to know in the world of wrestling.